Hey, what's up, YouTube? Today I'm going to show you a couple different ways to increase the value of your car and the clarity of your headlights by polishing these guys out. I'm actually going to show you two different ways. One way, which is very temporary, and a lot of places like to do it because it's very cost effective, being that it costs next to no money and likely can be done with something that you already have in your garage or house. The other way is a little more time consuming, but gives you a long-term, better finished product. Some people even recommend clear coating afterwards to restore a 100% shine, but the way that we're going to do them, they're going to look pretty good. It's going to restore these lenses back to a somewhat original clarity. So we're going to start off by showing you the easy way, the quick way. So you'll find a lot of videos about spraying some off on these headlights. And because everyone recommends doing it, I'm going to do it, and then I'm going to have to clean it off to go ahead and do it the second way. I'll give you a quick little glimpse into how that looks. And just like that, it almost looks shiny again. You can almost see through them clearly. The problem with this method is I've rarely ever seen any type of thing that you can spray on there that will last longer than 2 weeks, 3 weeks at the most. And I've owned a car dealership before, so I've seen a lot of this happen in auto auctions. And then when I get the car to my lot, suddenly those lights just turn yellow, and I realize that that's probably a $200 issue. You know, depending on the car, it could be more, as far as I've seen $1,000 for some cars. So since I sprayed all that garbage on my lens, I'm now going to go ahead and take a little bit of purple power degreaser. We're going to hose her back down again. And I'm going to hit it with a little bit of a scouring pad because I don't necessarily care how much scratch I get. What I really want is I want it to be clean, as the kit that I'm using has some very fine grit sanding paper that attaches to a drill. And we want to make sure that we're not just burning through a headlight kit. Some people say they can only be used on one car, but I've done 5 cars and I can still keep going with it. But I've done this on several cars, and it's definitely increased the value on one that I sold here recently, which was a 2004 Hyundai Elantra. It was a low mileage car, but it was from up in Cleveland and had been beaten up pretty bad by the salt and the years of sunlight, which is actually what really causes this, is UV damage. You can actually take the headlights out, which is vehicle depending. This car being a BMW, it's just a couple bolts. But for all intents and purposes, you can really do it on the car, which doesn't really make it take too much longer than it would take to spray crap on there. I mean, I guess you could argue that only took a minute, but the cleanup and stuff like that afterwards kind of doesn't level out. As you can see, the marker lights have actually already been replaced on this car, which actually makes this look worse, in my opinion. We're going to go ahead and put some gloves on so that we're not transferring oil to the headlights. And then I'm going to hit this again with some glass cleaner. I prefer invisible glass, as it's ammonia free and really good for tinted windows, and it really lives up to the name. Invisible glass is a really good product. I've used for, a very long time. In my experience, as far as off-the-shelf stuff, Windex ain't sticking up with that. So, go ahead and hit this with some invisible glass. Don't be shy to burn through some paper towels. They're $1 a roll, but these headlights, $200 a piece. Some cars as high as $1,000 a piece. You might as well spend the money on the paper towels than on the headlight. As you can see, just with kind of cleaning it up, and even with that little Scotch-Brite pad, it cuts through the crap pretty quick. And now I have a smooth surface that's pretty dirt-free. Generally, if you have a dirty rag after you're done cleaning, you're generally not clean. So even though I'm telling you it's clean, it's not, and we should try again. Try to make sure that we get as much grime off of there as we can before we start the process. No sense in sanding dirt off. Also, when you're sanding, you could be sanding that dirt back into the light and causing other scratches. Which, the point of this whole exercise is to not cause more scratches, but to get rid of the stuff that's there, the oxidation and the pitting. And that's what we want. And I've also negotiated a lot of cars when I go to buy them from independent people. If I see that it's got cloudy headlights, that's a thing that I generally point out. And being that this time of year, we've got a lot of cars that are being bought and sold with those hard-earned income tax dollars, that free loan to Uncle Sam. We kind of want to make sure we're spending that money wisely and not just throwing it down the drain. So, if you're going to get a car, who doesn't want it to look nice, shiny, and new? I'm also going to do a little bit on detailing, but I've got to go ahead and get my steam cleaner fixed, which I don't think is really a big deal. But they say that certain things like cracked windshields can deduct as much as $500 off the price of a car. A clean interior is worth roughly $800 in a car. Really good detail can be as much as worth as $1,200. That's where you hear people use the term as clean and fair and stuff of that nature. You can have a perfectly good body, but if the paint just doesn't shine, it really does affect the value of the car in total. It's a lot harder to sell a car that's not clean. As you can see, our rag is much cleaner now. So we've gotten pretty much all the dirt off of there, the important amounts anyways. So a kit that I've used and have reused several times, they say that this will really only do like a couple sets of headlights, but I've had no qualms with, I've probably done 5 pairs now. And I always believe that 3M makes a good product. I'm sure some of you guys have other preferences, and that's okay too. But we're looking to streamline a process. So I'm kind of jumping a step here. So if you're going to leave the car, or leave the headlight on the car, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're taping off the surfaces that you don't want to sand. Because any of these fine edges around the light can actually, you can rub all the paint off of that pretty quickly with any piece of sandpaper. So we don't want to mess up those edges. We don't want to take no shape out of anything. We're not even going to take any shape out of this headlight because of the way that the buffing kit is made. So I'm going to go ahead and tape this off a little bit and save us from a paint touch-up, which is always nice. We're just going to feed that in as best as we can. Back past the surface of the light, there's a little gap there. Get our tape in. And doesn't really need to be ultra perfect. We just want to make sure that we're not beating up any edges. Better job that you do with preparation can save you a lot of perspiration, if you know what I'm saying. Like I said, I'd rather waste a product like masking tape than the paint job on the car. Masking tape is cheap. New car parts are not. Can also be a little difficult to feed into some of these gaps. Especially on a car like a BMW, some of the stuff's a little tighter than than it would be on other cars. But we'll make sure that even if we burn through a good amount of tape here, we'll make sure we do a good job with taping. We don't want to ruin those new corner markers that's been already installed by the previous owner. And we're getting there. Notice that a lot of cars that have original headlights, they tend to look like this after, you know, a good 5 to 10 years, and try to extend the life of everything that we are purchasing anymore. And, you know, who doesn't want to look nice? Pick up the ladies, or the men in some cases. Hopefully some of the women out there, they'll be like, oh, I can buff my headlights out, and suddenly we will change the world. I honestly don't think that's going to happen. We're not changing the world. But we are going to change these headlights. Make it look significantly better. Please feel free to jump in the comments and criticize my masking tape job. I expect it, as I'm doing this in a little bit of a rush. Normally I would slow it down, but when you're recording videos, you tend to have a length of video that you can operate with. And if they get a little too long, people get bored, they stop watching, or they want to know where I got this bitchin' ass Pickle Rick beanie. It was a Christmas gift. I don't know where it came from. Came from my beautiful, amazing, ultra awesome wife. And generally what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make sure that I've got myself a good inch to mess up with. You know, we want to make sure that we've got ourselves a nice little buffer where there's no issues with beating that paint up. Probably going to go ahead and do one more strip across the bottom just in case I get happy, and one more strip across the side. I would much rather burn through masking tape than burn through the paint job, as I stated before. And we don't have to go real heavy-handed on this either, so... But should that sandpaper dig in, which is not what we're trying for, we will surely mess something up. And that's what we're showing you guys what not to do. Let's not mess anything up. So basically, now that I have it at this point, I have a prep surface that's clean, you know, pretty well dirt-free. I'm sure it looks like there's lots of dirt, but that's actually pitting various rock chips and scratches and dents and dings. And, you know, this car is a 2002 BMW 325i that's got 250,000 miles on it. So I don't think I could give you a better example of a used headlight. This thing's been everywhere from Florida, California, back to Ohio. It's lived a healthy life, but all in all, it still runs pretty good. I think it'll drive pretty good after we replace a couple parts on it. And all in all, it really doesn't even look too bad. So what we're going to be using, because I don't have a spray bottle, I have a water bottle that's probably got, I don't know, a good 10 drops of soap in. And what this is going to do is it's going to release the paint. You can use a spray bottle. I couldn't, unfortunately, find mine. I don't know what's happened with it. But we're going to use this to lubricate our headlight while we're sanding. And what that's going to do is it's going to wash away some of the old material as it's being sanded off. And it's going to help to keep our work surface clean. It's also going to save our sandpaper. So that $20 headlight kit suddenly does dramatically more cars. And the only thing that it's really limited by, I mean, obviously sandpaper always wears out, but The only other thing it's limited by is by the amount of buffing compound that you have, and you can buy buffing compound in bulk. So we're gonna grab our trusty drill. Any drill will work. Doesn't need to be super powerful. You don't have to go crazy on this. It's kind of like the finer hand kind of wins. You're not really looking for, you don't need like a 1/2-inch truck drill or anything like that. We're just doing light work. Light work requires a light drill. Okay. So in this kit, it comes with this finishing buffing pad. It also comes with the sponged backer, which this just sticks onto the sponged backer. And this allows it to keep it from messing up some of the contours that are in some of the lights. Some of them will have multiple bubbles, and we don't want to leave impressions in those bubbles. We want to make sure we're getting the whole thing and we're keeping it smooth. So, and then there's several grits of paper. I believe should be, that piece is done. Trying to find out which, I should have organized these better last time I put them away. That's the 3000, which is the final step. And you don't want to start with your finest sandpaper because it will burn through this so quick if you're trying to clean this whole light without having got it to an even scratch first, which is what you're looking to do. So in this kit we have a 500 and 800, and I believe, yep, it's a 500 and an 800. When you're using the sandpaper, also note the higher the number, the finer the grit. And actually, even when you fill these pieces of 800, it's consistent to, like rubbing your hand on a piece of notebook paper. But when you start off with the 500, you're sanding plastic. 500 is a little coarse on a piece of plastic. Basically, you're just gonna stick on your sandpaper like so, chuck it up in the drill, okay, shoot a little water on the light. And get to work. On some of the worst lights, you'll see a lot of this paste will come out way yellower. And it's not even necessarily that what's coming, or that the sandpaper is yellow in this case, but that the oxidation on the light is actually what's yellowed. What you're looking for is an even scratch on the whole surface. Sorry if I bumped you with my arm there. But we want a good even scratch. You notice how that's starting to look like paste because we're really bringing up a lot of crap off this light. Like I said, we got plenty of paper towels. And we really want an even scratch. We're looking kind of good. I hit a little bit more over near this edge. Now, we don't want to run through that tape. We also got to hit it up here. Now, we're not looking to, change any curves or anything of that nature, but we want to make sure that we've got it nice and even so we can hit it with our 800 next. And obviously it looks worse, but she's nowhere near done. You can kind of run a full stroke across the entire light. You can almost certainly get a good scratch that you're looking for. Basically, when you start sanding anything, whether it's a paint job or, a headlight in this case, some people even buff down windshields. They get scratched up. They have like the marks in them from where a wiper blade's gone bad and the wiper arm hits the windshield. You can actually buff those out. Let me know if you guys would like to see a video on that at some point, as I do have a car out there to do, which is my 1980 C10. It's got a little mark in the windshield, and I want to clean that up at some point. Oh my God, what have I done? It's hazier now than it ever was. That's exactly how it's supposed to look. Notice how it's even from one side to the other. It all looks the same. We have a uniform scratch. That's why they pay us the big bucks. Because we understand how that works. Alright. 500's off. Let's see. And also make sure that when you put these pieces of paper on this tool, that you are covering up the whole Velcro side. Otherwise, you'll be sanding with that. And I'm sure that will cause you some great deals of issues we ain't fixing to have around these here parts. Drop some of my sandpaper. We don't want to lose that. I'm cheap. We don't want to buy 10 of those kits. I'll go ahead and throw some more water on it. If you don't know how to make yourself your own little squirt bottle, basically just poke some holes in the lid. I use a straight pick to do it. Oh yeah. What do we think, gentlemen? And everybody wonders what a guy like me does when the Super Bowl's on. And I've heard that the Dallas Mavericks have hit all kinds of home runs today, and they're probably going to win. You notice that is a little finer scratch. The light's kind of starting to clear back up. Obviously, it looked like we massacred it with the 500, but that's exactly how it's supposed to look. We're kind of trying to make sure that we don't see any uneven marks. We want to probably hit this a couple times. Just making sure that we get the most bang for our buck. Maybe we'll do one headlight, not do the other, and call it One-Eyed Willie. what that white foam is that you're seeing coming up. Obviously, I told you that I had a little bit of soap in there, but that foam is actually the material that we're removing. You don't want to really do this until it's dry, or that foam tends to stick to the light, and then you have to sand it out as well. You know, it becomes kind of a thicker paste. We're not trying to have that kind of issue. We don't want to do more work than we got to do, because not only am I cheap, I'm also lazy. Oh yeah, she's looking pretty good. Part of me thought that there should have been a 2000 grit. But I'm probably wrong. Also, if you guys know of any good editing tools for YouTube videos, I'm trying to do this all by cell phone because I think that I could get the most access to phones. You know, you can basically take them anywhere. You can do anything with them now. We all have them in our pocket. You're likely watching me on one right now. Just seems to be the easiest way to go about things. And if I can do it on a cell phone, why not? Obviously, I'm looking to also improve my quality of content. I only posted one other video, which was basically a brief introduction about me and some of the projects I'm looking to do. We'll get a little deeper into me and some of those projects later. But I wanted to post up a tutorial to make sure that when I'm teaching people, that I actually have something of value for them to learn. Obviously, I want to kind of do some bigger stuff. Maybe do some small block Chevy builds. We got some LS swaps and, you know, everything that everybody else does, we do it too. Of course, I have to hone my craft to get you guys to come on back. Alright, so this is our 3000 grit, and we're going to give her a little wash down of water again. Like I said, we kind of want to keep that fluid moving. Keep the material that we're sanding off. We want to keep it off of the light. You'll start seeing results now. Also notice I'm not really hitting this thing full speed at all times, just because it's not really necessary. You'll also use less water if you start from the bottom and work your way up, which is what I should be doing. But sometimes I don't think totally clearly while I'm doing this stuff, which, you know, in my opinion, practice makes perfect, so. Just going to kind of keep chatting away while I show you how to do it. As you can tell, she's starting to get a little bit of her shine back. this point right here, we're about as bright as it would be with off after about 3 days. You know, plus if you get a little bit of rain out there, it's on the inside. Little part number on the inside of that light. I couldn't even tell that guy was there. When we started this program, you could see this, but you couldn't see the other side. But as you can see, that's really starting to clean up. You know, we want to make sure that, once again, we've got an even scratch. Looks like we could do a little more down here along the bottom. Which that's what we're going to do. I have a firm belief that if you're going to half-ass it, then no-ass it and don't do it at all. Try to make sure that we do things as right as we can, especially when you teach others. Because somebody may watch this video and only retain 90% of the information. So if they don't retain it very well, you know, you got to make sure that they at least were shown the right way to do it. I'm really hoping that we can get a few more people out into their garage and looking at their cars, taking a little more pride in them. This is kind of one of those things that, like, it's also, you know, kind of safety related, I suppose. You know, everybody knows about that guy that's got the ultra bright lights, but what about those ones where they have their headlights on and you know damn good and well they can't see as far as your lights shine and they're right beside you? If somebody would have told them, you know, hey man, you could probably fix that in less than an hour for $20, I think we'd see a lot more people out there perhaps giving it their college try. So I'm never a fan of using these guys dry and they tell you to just squirt some fluid on the pad. Generally, I just wet them a little bit and make sure that sponge is alive. Everybody knows what an old kitchen sponge feels like. Now, these don't get that bad, and if you rinse them out, you'll definitely maximize the life of these. But I've also found that you can never fully rinse everything out. And I'm sure a lot of detail guys would agree to that. You know, you can get them fairly clean, but you'll never have them 100%. So, we're just doing a little rinse and squeeze. Soften that guy right up. You see? That's what we're looking for. Nothing stiff. Once again, we make sure she's centered. And we're going to reach down here. And with this kit, it comes with a package of buffing compound. So basically, when you open it up, you know, most people would say it's done, but I find that if you fold the corner, you know, really nice and tight, when you put it back in the package, I always keep my packages until they're totally unusable. But if you just fold the corner, it'll keep that stuff still moist. And sometimes you might have to recut the package because your corner's so good. But that shouldn't be a concern for us. Now, for maximizing your product, you want to use as little as possible. The secondary side of that is that you don't want that sponge to go dry, otherwise it won't do its job properly. So, we're not going to be overly cautious with how much we put on, but we are going to make sure that we do a good job. We don't want to buff this when it's dry. We want to kind of keep it wet. So if we don't keep it wet, we do it when it's dry, it won't really shine like it's supposed to. And we're going for maximum shine. Generally, kind of smear it a little bit, which does two things. Obviously, it applies it to the light, but it also applies it to your applicator. Keeps it from being dry. Also, if you notice, I clear my voice a lot. The reason for that is during my cancer operation, I had a salivatory gland that was removed, and that kind of makes my throat dry. So although I'm talking a lot, I really should be drinking a lot, but I don't want to waste minutes in this video. I want to keep us moving. You'll also notice I'm kind of moving a lot of water out of that sponge. I probably should have squeezed it a little better. That's okay. Just a little buffing compound. If we got to do it again, we'll do it till we get it right. I'm going to go ahead and hit it with a little bit of speed just to kind of speed things up. It's not real necessary for you to do it if you're not comfortable. Let's give her a wipe down. Really think I had that sponge a little too wet. The idea of it was to soften it up, not really add the moisture. Just want it to be soft. As you can tell, we're getting somewhere, fellas. While you guys are waiting on me to clean, and because I'm doing such a fantastic job, you should go down to the bottom and give me a subscribe and like and a comment. Tell me all the things I'm doing wrong. Tell me the things I'm doing right. Tell me the things you'd like to see in the future. I do intend on being around for a little while, kind of cleaning this up to make sure that it's as clear as I want it. And I do think I'm going to make another pass. I want it to be as perfect as I can make it. But if you're telling me that don't beat off already, did I really just say that on camera? If you're telling me that doesn't beat bug spray, and I don't know who you're kidding. And the other thing is this will last quite some time. I'm kind of just making sure that I've got it as clean as I want it. So that I can really tell what's going on. You know, obviously I already stated I was going to buff it again. And I'm going to. But I want to know where. You know, let's get the maximum results. The idea is to make it look like We just bought a new pair. Next time somebody tells you that you got a nice set of headlights, you won't think that they're talking about your sister. Maybe they'll actually be admiring your car this time. Oh, God. I always try to make sure you don't, sit your sponge down on anything dirty. Oh, yeah. You can also sometimes start to feel the drag on the grill will change. And that is progress, my friend. Now, before I do this final cleaning, did you hit subscribe? I believe you. Don't disappoint me. All this crap off just because it's getting on our rags. I'm seeing progress, baby. Woo-wee. Oh, yeah. Is that progress or what? It's also free money when you're selling it. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in again. Like I said, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Make sure you leave some comments down there. Tell me how ugly I look, so I can come over with these headlights and honk them, or honk the horn, flash the headlights, get your sister to come out. She's got a nice set too. Anyways, love you. Bye.